Thanks to all of you for being here. Distinguished clergy, elected officials, immediate past mayor, current mayor, thank you all so much for being here. This legislation that we call, in short, closing the Charleston Loophole, was first proposed not long after that catastrophic event back in June 17, 2015. It's kind of interesting when we have these kinds of incidents, people tend to get a little bit riled up and they'll go off to do something. And then as the days, weeks, months, years pass, things kind of wane and people settle back. In this instance, we cannot afford that because we are constantly being reminded daily of some other incident. We seem to be developing a culture that allows us to accept these kinds of incidents. And we're growing numb, it seems to me, to these kinds of incidents. But just this week, we were reminded once again of how important this kind of legislation is, because that gentleman in Illinois was not eligible to have a firearm. And something got missed in his background check. They found it, but too late to save those lives. And that's what happened in this instance. I don't own a gun. I don't begrudge anybody else who may own. But it seems to me that it is important for us to do what we can to prevent people who should not purchase a gun from purchasing. It may be mental illness. It may be the propensity to do harm. Whatever it may be, we ought to have sufficient time to try to check out the purchaser. That's all we're trying to do with this legislation. We're not trying to keep anybody who wants to own a gun from owning a gun. We just want to have time built into the system so that we can check. And unfortunately, as is the case so often, this legislation is being grossly misrepresented by our friends in the gun owners community. I read just yesterday and again this morning something put out by Gun Owners Association saying they got it from the National Rifle Association that we are eliminating the waiting period. Nothing could be further from the truth. I wish you would read the legislation. We are extending the waiting period from 3 days to 10. And if after 10 days we still have not resolved the background check, one who wants to purchase can ask for an enhanced review. And then within the next 10 years, that enhanced review must take place. And the way it's all set up, the outside period would be 28 days. So we're not saying that we're going to eliminate it. We're just saying that we want to extend it to provide sufficient time. Remember, Dylan Roof attempted to purchase a gun on a Saturday. And the back was requested the following Monday. And something showed up. And they needed to check it out again, or further check it. But by the time the further check, the 3-day period had expired. From the 13th to the 16th, he then went back, purchased a gun, and by the time the gun was gone. So that's all we're doing here. And I want to thank all of the friends of the deceased. I want to thank all of the people of this community, a community that I love so dearly, a community that I've always considered to be as closely knit as any community that I've ever been a part of. I want to thank them for being here. And I want to thank my friend Joe Cunningham, and he is my friend. You know, we use that term kind of loosely up in Washington. We often refer to each other as my good friend, but most times we don't mean it. I do mean it when I call him a friend. I want to thank him for being here. Thank you for co-sponsoring this bill. This bill is bipartisan. Peter King of New York co-sponsored this bill. And even when we went to look at whether or not we should modify it, he said to me, if you want it to remain a bipartisan bill, please keep it the way it is. So there's nothing about this that's partisan. You can't be more Republican than Peter King. You can't be more Democrat as Jim Clyburn. And the two of us have agreed on this. Friend Joe Cunningham for signing on as a co-sponsor of the bill.